Crime is up, another man is dead, neighbors are feeling unsafe, and police with an urgent plea from the community. Good evening, I'm Samantha Croston. A solemn mood on Syracuse's north side tonight, the community gathering just outside the Samaritan Center on State Street in Syracuse. Many with balloons. Our photographer describing the scene as mostly silent and heartbreaking. The community gathering in the same area where a young man's life was taken earlier this morning. A 29-year-old man is dead. He was shot on the 200 block of North State Street on Syracuse's north side around 4 this morning. The man was taken to Upstate University Hospital where he was pronounced dead. Police say he was shot at least once in the torso. No suspect has been identified. He is the latest victim of a number of weekend shootings in the Syracuse area. Last weekend, a total of 6 shootings were reported throughout the Syracuse area from Friday night to Sunday afternoon, and only one shooting suspect was immediately identified. Today, I spoke with neighbors on Syracuse's north side to see how this violence is impacting their day-to-day lives. The shooting on Syracuse's north side that ended with a 29-year-old shot and killed is one of a series of crimes that recently took place.
I'm tired of hearing about the crime. It's getting worse and worse.
Patty Jackson has been an employee at Rocky's Cigars on Syracuse's north side for the past 10 years. In that time, she's had a first-hand look at the ways violence has impacted her own life and the lives of her customers.
The Sunoco station up here on James Street, guy got accosted there trying to pump gas. You know, he was one of our customers, and we didn't see him for a long time after that because he was scared.
Just before the shooting took place Sunday morning, scanners indicated that there was a crowd of a couple hundred people gathered on North Salina Street. It's the most recent example of an issue that city officials and SPD refer to as open-air parties, people gathering in crowds long after the bars have shut down. Back in July, a shooter open-fired in Clinton Square at an open-air party in a crowd of dozens of people, hitting 2 and grazing a 3rd. Both Sunday morning shooting and the one that took place in July happened after 3 o'clock in the morning.
These are definitely serious issues of concern because by the time everyone's been drinking, it's 3 in the morning. That's usually when the fights, stabbings, or shootings occur.
Syracuse Police are urging neighbors to contact their lawmakers about tightening crime laws for fear that the spike will continue to worsen otherwise.
We almost have a 40% increase in the amount of people shot when compared to last year. We've been saying time and time again, we need to re-examine these reforms that we've put in place.
Jackson won't walk around at night anymore and even feels unsafe walking outside during the day. The violence impacting both safety and quality of life.
It's not doing anything for us. It hurts everything. It hurts the businesses. It hurts the residents of the area, and we just need to try to come together as people.
Good evening. Across central New York, guns are being taken away from people legally. Use of the state's red flag law is up, and the tips on people who may be dangerous are coming from big cases that make the news and even during quiet phone calls that raise alarm. One of those cases that made the news just this week led to a red flag petition against an 18-year-old who police say brought a gun on a bus and then into East Syracuse Manoa High School. This is just one of many uses of the red flag lately. Allure Lagarde is working for you tonight.
Michael, another emergency risk protection order was filed in Onondaga County just Wednesday, the 3rd of the week, also known as red flag laws. We're seeing an increase in these cases, and the district attorney's office says it makes sense, especially after the shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde. If you look through some of the most recent cases filed in the state Supreme Court for Onondaga County, you'll see them over and over. Case type, special proceedings, extreme risk protection order. Each contains an application outlining the calls and investigations that led a law enforcement agency to seek the removal of guns from a person.
The idea behind the structure of this law is to make it temporary and to therefore lessen any impact on a person's Second Amendment privileges.
Chief Assistant District Attorney Joseph Kulikin says they have seen an uptick in these cases after the shooting in Buffalo that killed 10 African Americans, and Uvalde, Texas, with the murder of 19 elementary students and 2 teachers. In total, since 2019, there have been 1,029 red flag orders issued in New York State. We found Onondaga County filed at least 40 extreme protection orders between mid-May and this week. 3 filed this week alone. Before that, 118 orders were filed over 3 years.
I think we're seeing an uptick based following, again, the horrible events of May. Will that plateau? I expect it will, but I can't read the future.
Take one of the most recent filings. 18-year-old Elijah Cruz Argondo, accused of threatening students on an East Syracuse Manoa school bus with a gun. Manlius police say a search of his home found a .22 caliber semi-automatic handgun hidden. Just the day before, a state police request. This one, a man in Van Buren, accused of pointing an AR-15 styled weapon at his 2-year-old daughter's head. Police say he admitted the AR-15 and an AK-47 found at the home were not registered and were not compliant with the New York SAFE Act. 10 days earlier, a petition filed by the Onondaga District Attorney's Office for a defendant accused of threatening to shoot a judge and others in a courtroom and telling Syracuse police officers, "You can't put a bulletproof vest on a headshot."
It is a finding by a Supreme Court judge that these actions are necessary.
One petition stems from a background check by the Onondaga County Sheriff's Office, while the person applied for a reinstatement of a pistol permit. Others come from threats made in a phone call with the Social Security Administration, suicidal concerns for a loved one, or lengthy police investigations that involve social media monitoring.
The only way the system works is if citizens step up and, quote unquote, do the right thing and take the necessary steps to hopefully prevent a tragedy.
The judge is the one who makes the decision if a person is considered a threat. If they are, their guns will be taken away for a year. After that year, they can make an appearance before the judge again to see if they're qualified to get them back. And the DA's office will determine if there is a need for an extension of that order.
By Lieutenant Malinowski with the Syracuse Police Department. Lieutenant Malinowski, thanks for joining me here this morning.
Good morning. Happy to be here as always.
So we saw a violent weekend last weekend and continue to see violence throughout the city this week with a lot of younger adults and teens involved in these crimes. What's your message on what we can do to stop this?
Well, my main message would be this is not something that we're going to be able to arrest ourselves out of. We've been throwing the red flag up here, trying to tell everyone, hey, crime is getting out of control. We almost have a 40% increase in the amount of people shot when compared to last year. We've been saying time and time again, we need to re-examine these reforms that we've put in place. We had an example where we arrested someone in Armory Square with a gun. The person went in front of a judge and was released back into our community. Again, it doesn't make sense. So we're really going to have to, and we keep saying this, we're almost begging at this point, please contact your lawmakers. We need stronger laws on the books, because if not, we're just going to all continue to see this this crime wave happen until we really turn this ship around. And again, we have less and less police that want to do the job. We only put 4 people through our last academy. So again, if we don't make this a priority, I'm nervous that the crime will just continue to spike.
So you mentioned the lack of police officers in the department has been making policing and combating crime more difficult.
Right. So we're having a hard time even keeping up with the calls. The response times, are, longer. People are frustrated. We get that. We need to hire more police. But it's a really interesting story, and I think people should look at this. The epicenter of kind of defund the police, we don't need the police, was in Seattle, and they've done a complete turnaround. And now it's really like we need police, and they're even offering, say, like transfers, like myself, if they wanted, if I went there, they'd give you a $30,000 bonus. And new police officers, they're paying $7,500 as a bonus, which is crazy. And it's really showing you that, this failed experiment of that we don't need the police and we're going to just somehow figure it all out didn't work. And it's important that that's where that support comes in. And that's where we really need to make sure that we're supporting our police departments and we're giving our officers the tools to do the job. Because, again, we're facing some serious issues. And, it's important.
So another issue we've talked about is burglaries. And you mentioned that students, when they left for summer, burglaries have gone up. What does that look like now?
So, yeah, we're seeing an East Side burglary issue. OK, and a lot of the times it's when, say, students will have apartments, they leave for the summer, and then the opportunist who wants to commit crime and burglary knows that the students aren't there. So it's not just a student issue, though. Property crime is through the roof. Again, this issue on burglaries, a 47% increase when compared to last year. 47% that we're seeing in our city. So I don't want to make this just a city of Syracuse issue, though, because it can happen to anyone. So we really want people to be proactive about protecting their property. Locking your doors, making sure your windows are locked, and then lights and cameras. Cameras are huge. You know, if we could put something similar to a Ring doorbell on every house in America, you know, where you can actually see what's taking place on your property, people know that you have some sort of cameras, and help prevent that crime. But I can tell you, don't think it can't happen to you, because it can. You don't want to be the victim of a burglary. It's one of the most, those type of crimes that really impact you the most violating type of crime that you feel, you think about all the time when someone came into your house. So again, just try to do the best you can to prevent it.
Lieutenant Malinowski, thank you so much for joining me here this morning.